Okay. All right, everybody, welcome. Hopefully you can see me. I just threw on a jacket. I was coming out from my workout, which is typical at this time. I may have to change the time again, but it's all good. So hopefully you can see the PowerPoint. Let me know if you don't. You can use the chat room. The Q&A should be available. You can say hi to me in there. And if I haven't met you before, I just want to say welcome, 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 welcome. And praise God, we're here for another session. Praise God. He's got us through another month and our health, right? So praise the Lord. Thank you, God, for bringing us together tonight. God, I just thank you for this impact on sugar. God, help us to learn how to eat it and learn what to eat in this section. God, I thank you for continued motivation, wellness, health, and all those good things in Jesus' name. I'm just going to record. I am recording. Okay, great. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Say hi in the chat room if you can. Just hit more, and then you'll see chat. You should be able to do that and say hi to me. I would love that so I can see you. And you may want to say all panelists and attendees. All panelists and attendees. Yeah. Hi, Jill. Welcome. Hi, Audrey. I don't think I met Audrey before. Hi, Sigrid. Nice to see you. Okay, so what we're going to do is go through the PowerPoint because it's a lot to cover. The goal of today is to motivate and inspire you to let sugar go a little bit more and to learn how to work with it. So in the chat room, make sure you have it where it says all panelists and attendees. And then that way you can get to know each other too. So just check in. This is agenda for today. We're going to check in, meet and greet as best we can with the chat room. We're going to learn how to eat sugar without gaining weight or losing health. I'm going to go over recipe of the month, which is quick and crunchy pizza. You'll enjoy that for when you have a pizza craving. And it is plant-based and it's simple and it's very easy to make. I'm big on quick, simple recipes because if you have any bit of a schedule like mine, you just don't have time for a big old, meal and 20 ingredients. We're going to set some goals in the Facebook group and then upcoming events. So welcome if you're just joining. Hello. So we prayed, why this call? I'm only doing this call because I want to support you to make change. And what's the interesting thing about health is you have to constantly reconnect and saturate yourself in health material because of our culture. We have a culture that's very tempting. Okay. If this was certain other issues, right? It's hard when you have tempting treats everywhere you go to continue the path of health. It's really, really difficult. So that's why we have this call. And I just want to give to you, especially as my Chubby Church readers and supporters, you mean the world to me. The reason I write is because God called me to it to support his people that are struggling in their health. And of course, I've had my own journey, as you know, from reading the book. So that's why we're doing this call. Now, where are you calling from? Share your name, your location. If you have any goals or reasons you're on this call, definitely share those with me as well. Would love to hear them. And Audrey, yeah, where are you from? Dr. Michael, where are you from? Share that with me. Jill, you're right here in Denver. Any other? Yeah, Jill's from Aurora, Colorado. Good old Aurora. And Audrey, where are you from? I'm from New Jersey, by the way, everybody. So New Jersey it is. Ray, you're right around the corner too. See. All right, that's it. We just have a small group tonight. I guess it's nice weather here. Okay, good. Every good and perfect gift is from the Lord, is from Denver. Okay, excellent. Okay, great. Yeah, and feel free to talk to me if you have any questions at all through this time. And this video will be available for you after the session as well. So you'll have that there. Okay. All right. So as far as, and it's every first Monday. So just know it's every first Monday of the month that you'll be able to get on that call, get on this call. I just have to even someone text me, hey, are you having the call? It's like, yes, ma'am. Let me just text her that it's the same information. Okay. So how to eat sugar without weight gain or health effects, okay? Or I should say effects there. Sugar facts. Sugar is really good. It's really delicious. So of course we want to eat it. And of course we want to eat a lot of it, right? It's just natural to want to eat something that tastes delicious. So sugar is good. All right. Now here's the other fact is that it's highly addictive, causing us to eat more of it. And it's very widespread. It's everywhere. And it is technically a drug. Why? Because it's stripped down from all of its good nutritional benefits from the sugarcane plant. Is a 10-foot tall, juicy, luscious plant filled with wonderful healing nutrients. The sugar, however, module, the granule that we have, the refined sugar, is actually not very beneficial. There are some benefits. You can have quick focus, you can have quick energy, but there is always a drop. Okay, there's a rise and a fall from that quickness that you can gain. And then we have high fructose corn syrup, which is an alternative replacement for sugar. That's in everything pretty much. So high fructose corn syrup is a refined version. You have even cane sugar, where it's the juice of the sugar cane plant that you can get as well. And that's what we're talking about when I'm talking about sugar. There's lots of names for sugar that are out there. Some are better than others. Some affect blood sugar different ways. But the key of the matter is high fructose corn syrup and refined sugar are what we're talking about today. And they're highly addictive, causing us to eat more of it. So whenever you have it in your system, you're going to want to eat more. And it's usually paired. The problem is too, is that it's paired with other addictive things like dairy. Wheat flour is highly addictive for most people. If you cannot stop eating bread, if you have to have something that has wheat in it every day, a tasty cake, a muffin, a Pop-Tart, okay, if you're eating biscuits, right, every day, and you can't seem to take a break from it, then you may have an addictive nature to it. If you binge it, meaning if you eat a lot of it in one setting, you have an addictive nature to it. So there's the problem with sugar is it's not just the sugar, it's almost always paired with saturated fat and refined fat, as well as like butter. Butter's very tasty, right? So it's butter, but in your packaged products, it's not butter, it's refined sunflower oil or peanut oil or something like that. And then you have your refined sodium. Okay, so you have your salt, refined salt. So then you're having this concoction of addictive ingredients. And I'll have a seminar on May 1st, 9 to 12 noon, that will talk about the addictive ingredients of the standard American diet. You'll want to get on that. It's a paid event and it's promoting my new book. So a cause for imbalance is also with sugar. So there's some things like plaque, cavities, hypertension, cancer, diabetes, type 2, prediabetes, and many more issues that are signaling an imbalance, arthritis issues even, are signaling an imbalance of too much sugar. When we have different issues show up, and the easiest one to tell is like mouth, dental work that's showing up, that's the way we can tell we have too much calcium in our system. How do we get too much calcium? We eat too much sugar, okay? Or how do we get excess minerals or phosphorus and all that? It's because of our excess of sugar is going to pull the body out of balance, because every time you eat these things, it's actually stealing nutrients from the rest of the body. And so we have things like osteoporosis. Even though the country eats lots of dairy, and dairy is supposed to give us lots of good nutrients for calcium, the country's actually having more and more hip replacements, osteoporosis, arthritis, chronic disease. So we eat 653 pounds of dairy a year, yet we're having more and more problems. We eat lots of meat every year, yet we are anemic as a country. Okay, so there's lots of anemia, lots of weakness, lots of energy issues. And it's because of these great imbalances. So sugar is one of those things that causes imbalance in the other minerals within the physical body. So it does throw us completely off. There's a great book. It's old. It's called Lick the Sugar Habit. And it talks about all of those ailments and issues. My new book actually reprints all of the issues associated with sugar in the body and that are proven in research problems from sugar. All right, I could tell you stories forever, but one of the key stories that really struck me around our sugar intake, and again, I am going to share with you how to eat it. You may not like some of my thoughts, but the one of the major ones that struck me was the transatlantic slave, the transatlantic slave trade, right? Was all because of sugar. It started with sugar. It's that addictive. It's similar to human trafficking. Human trafficking is the feeding the addiction of sex, right? Sex addiction affects the brain, causes us to need more of that stimulus, more of that response. So sex addiction is why we do anything evil, is because of addiction, is because the physical brain is hooked in some way. That sin nature in the body lives within us, right? And it gets hooked. And that's why we do that. Why did we, right? My people, other people come out of the slavery, is because we were addicted to sugar as a country. Once people taste it, you're hooked. I mean, it's absolutely delicious. It's wonderful. And guess what? We want more and more and more and more of it. And in the 70s, when we started doing high fructose corn syrup, it was still addictive. It was still allowing the same issues inside of the brain. So there's lots to say about that. That's why I put in a book, praise the Lord. But we are talking about some facts here and why this highly addictive thing. So it's not your fault that you binge on sugar. It's not. It's your body chemistry. No, some people are more prone to addictive natures with salt or with sugar, crunchy stuff, fatty stuff. A lot of food addiction is based on fat. So like cheese is a true opioid stimulator from the casomorphines. I could say a lot about it, but I'm doing a whole class. The point is, it's not your fault. It's the stuff in your system. So when it's in your system, guess what? You're going to create more of it. You're going to want more of it. So that's why it's a problem, because it's still in your system. And if you quit for a week, it takes 3 weeks to flush this stuff out of your system. So it's very addictive. Too much sugar will always produce a weight problem, especially if you're like me and obesity runs in your family, or you struggle with weight and eating, which is probably why you're reading Chubby Church, or you're struggling with chronic health issues or threats to your health or trying to prevent it, then you're going to have to make some changes on the type of sugar that you eat and the style that you're eating it. Okay. So there's lots we're going to talk about. Okay. So refined starches also act as sugar. If you're saying, oh, I don't have a sweet tooth, Jay, I just like my crunchy pretzels. All right, that's all right. That still works as sugar when it comes to glucose uptake and what's happening in your system. It still works the same way, leading you down the path to greater issues with your health. Now, remember, diabetes is a serious threat. It's the #1 cause of blindness, of amputations. It makes you sluggish. There's so many reasons to really work on your eating and work on getting away from the satanic addictive deception that is the standard American diet. Okay. So it's Satan's agenda of death to take you out, and more so death of your purpose, death of your energy to get other things done for the kingdom's advancement. So once removed, you will not crave any refined sugar. And that's what's powerful, is that when it's out of your system, guess what? You don't even think about it anymore. But because it's addictive nature, yes, you're going to think about it. Of course, you're going to think about it. And why do food giants do this? Well, they do it because they want money. They need to profit. Any good business wants to profit. So if you have a legal substance that's causing a whole heck of a lot of issues, and it can make you hooked, guess what? You're going to do it. Now, remember, Coca-Cola used cocaine, and it's addictive, and it's just a few chemical compositions different than sugar. Okay, it's only like 1 nitrogen off and a couple other hydrogens and things. And it's so cocaine was very addictive. They just replaced that with sugar. They still had addiction, and people were hooked on cocaine or PepsiCo. Okay. Now, wonderful, beautiful companies. However, their point is profitability, not your health. And so if your taste buds like it, your organs may not necessarily love it. Okay. But we will tell you how to eat it. There is no addiction to something you no longer have in your system and are unwilling to eat, by the way. So the sooner you're saying to myself, like I had to say to myself, we can't do refined sugar anymore, because you can see there, you're just so much better without trying the moderation thing. You're so much better just letting it go. And it's just learning how to get used to a culture that is very much used to having it around. Okay. So first, how to eat sugar without weight gain or weight health effects. Number one is eat real sugar. Now, real sugar is not refined. All right. So that means you choose an alternative version of unrefined sugar. Even molasses these days that you see at the King Supers or the drugs or the not drugstore, but the supermarket, even that is filled with refined sugar or high fructose corn syrup. So it's really hard to find like true like unrefined sugar, and you may not like the taste. But you want to consider some alternatives to that, which we'll talk about. You also don't want to do any artificial sweeteners. I love a line that Holy Spirit, of course, gave me in the book, and it was like, it's like little tap dancing devils on your taste buds when you eat artificial sugar. So we are so used, okay, just get sweet and low or get your, your whatever Splenda. But these are chemical compositions that actually are higher in their sweetness. They're 200 or more times sweeter, and this is why a lot of people who eat those are still dealing with obesity and other factors. They also do not crave any real food. When you're eating the chemical composition, the people who eat those will not want to eat God-made foods. So you just will not have a taste for vegetables or fruit because it is truly a chemical thing to your taste buds. So we need a taste bud redemption. Praise the Lord. We need a taste bud change. So the type of sugar absolutely matters. You can definitely talk to me in the chat room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Jay, your host of Chubby Church Books. Type matters. So the type of sugar absolutely does matter to what you find craving. So for example, you may love coconut sugar. It's such a wonderful flavor. If you haven't tried that, you got to taste different alternatives to see how they affect your brain and if they cause cravings and if you can't stop eating it. Certain ones don't cause that. I can have agave. I don't have any trouble with that, with certain types of substance. I can eat it every day. You can eat maple syrup, right? It doesn't have the same effects on blood sugar like refined sugar does or high fructose corn syrup does. So you don't have as much of that spike and have those problems. And you're also getting some other nutrients and benefits. So there's certain sugar that is totally okay to eat that for your composition. You have to test to see what works and what does not work for you. And you may, yes, need an alternative. Like I absolutely had to have an alternative version of what is considered like a sweet flavor. Now, the human body, this is really interesting. Our wiring in our taste buds is actually a higher composition of sweet than not. So you're going to have more taste bud receptors for the sweet flavor. Black people have even more higher sweet preferences and higher sodium preferences. Children have high sweet preferences. Okay. So just considering that. Eating more fruit. So one thing is that fruit is real sugar. And what's great about the fruit and the real sugar is that you're going to have the other components. So when you eat an actual piece of fruit, let's say an orange, not only are you getting great vitamin C and warding off disease and stuff, you're getting all kinds of other nutrients, potassium, healthy forms of sodium, in the truest form. You're getting the hydration. So the purest form of water is made in the creation of vegetables and fruits, right? So it's within the creation is the best, most highest quality, potent hydration you can get, which is in a piece of fruit. Okay. So when you're eating fruit, you also get the fiber associated with the fruit. Whereas when you eat regular refined sugar and you have that sweet tooth and you're going on and off again with your sweets, it's because your body is still malnourished because it keeps just wanting the sugar and it doesn't want the other healthier forms of sugar. So if you even just made the switch of all fruit instead of sugar, you're going to see huge benefits in your weight release and your healthiness and your happiness because you're getting more for yourself. So if you're going to eat sugar, here's how you do it. Now, the sugar I'm talking about is ideally not refined, but even if it is, I'll give you some tips. So first is to make alternative versions. So for example, let's say you buy the food, you buy the cookie or whatever. You want to make alternative versions. So using applesauce, bananas. Yesterday I made gluten-free bananas and just you mashed up a banana and use some maple syrup and agave with it. But you can have, that is a wonderful way to get the same sugar, sweet taste, right? Sweet taste, but using alternatives. So I'm not craving those foods again. Applesauce, there's tons of dishes online for baking with applesauce as its sweetener. Learning how to adapt is also important, and using those alternative versions. So make it yourself instead of buying the packaged goods. Planning a day for your sweet day is wonderful, because then you can look forward to it. You know that you'll have a sweet day instead of going on and on again and off again with your sweets. Eat as little as you can tolerate of refined. Okay. Now, again, we all have this white substance threshold that we can only eat so much before we start going crazy and eating everything. So you have to find that for yourself, and it may be a very tiny amount, so that you don't binge on the substance, okay, the sugar. Now, again, ideally, we just do alternative versions, but if you need to eat refined, it's how do you get away with as little as you possibly can? And you may need some boundaries. You may need size or package boundaries. If you're doing packaged products and processed food, you may need uh, to bake for one, learn how to bake less brownies, or have people over to help you eat it. There's lots of strategies. You may need to buy the smallest package. There's ways that you can do that and just have as little as you possibly can to tolerate. Another thing is to choose special days. So instead of eating it every day or just random or not having a plan, you choose special days. For example, birthday, Mother's Day, holidays, considering it once a month. Reducing the frequency is also super helpful. If you need to have it daily or need to have it more frequently, you want to eat it early. Do not go to bed on a sugar high. That is going to affect your health, your heart health, your diabetic health more than you can ever guess. It leaves it high. It messes with the teeth. It's a destroyer to health to eat sweets late at night when you're eating ice cream. Like I had a client, he was always eating ice cream in bed. It was his comfort food, you know. He wanted ice cream and he just was eating it all the time. And a lot of people do that. They want that comfort, they want that yummy pleasure, and they want it in bed. You know, they want it when they're winding down. And that's very normal. But I'm just going to encourage you to try things like fruit, like blackberries. I mean, you can eat a whole carton of blackberries, and before bed, you're not going to have any issues, because it's a low hit on your blood sugar. You get tremendous amounts of fiber, and it has all these other nutrients to balance it out. But raspberries, okay, blueberries. I obviously want to encourage you to eat less before bed at all, but the fruit is going to process really quickly. You also have a low glycemic fruit, so not high sugary fruit. You also have, but hey, if you eat nice cream, which is the banana ice cream we talked about before, that's when you unpeel your bananas, put them in the freezer, and then you blend them with a tiny bit, very tiny bit of either almond butter or peanut butter, or neither butter and just some almond milk, a tiny bit. It'll get that same consistency. You can put vanilla in there, have it taste like vanilla. There's so many things that you can do with nice cream, it's called. Lots of flavors, lots of online recipes, and a wonderful alternative. If you did need to eat your ice cream in bed, that's what you would eat. Okay, so some kind of alternative. But if you have to eat the sugar, you want to eat it early in the day. Now, dessert breakfasts are going to set your day up for a really bad eating day. So that's why I don't do pancakes often and things like that. I make them out of bananas as well, or I'll make them out of gluten-free flour occasion, very seldom. But eating it early is so helpful. Just don't go to bed on a sugar high. If you eat it, be sure to brush your teeth. Now, also don't eat liquid forms, especially juices and sodas. Those liquid forms literally go straight shot. Now, soda goes right, it bypasses what's normal in digestion and literally just stores as fat. And a lot of people are getting something called fatty liver. I don't know if any of you have had that or suffered with that, but fatty liver is because it's just literally converting right over to fat within the body. So soda is very unhealthy for you. Even the organic kinds are still loaded with the sugar. So if you need to go with a soda, try again the least amount of sugar you can tolerate, and ideally as low as possible. Now back to make it yourself, that's helpful too. So for example, I love matcha green tea lattes, all right? But I've learned how to make them myself so that I can put my own amount of sugar in there. Or if I even have a baked good, I make it myself so I'm not getting the sugar that's in the package context and the excess sodium and the excess fat and the extra fillers, right? So I'm just getting what I'm making and versus all the extra stuff. So again, if you have to eat it, pick special days, eat it early in the day. The earlier in the day, the better. The more you combine it with exercise and with prior to dinner, you're actually supposed to eat dessert before dinner and hopefully not as often or a very tiny amount. In French, other cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, they have their desserts right around lunchtime. Okay. They bring out the pastries. They weren't suffering with any issues with weight or chronic disease like we are. Okay. Now, some cultures do die early, but that's another story. But what they find is that they were eating these pastries and stuff, and a lot of other cultures will eat a nice treat. They just don't eat a huge package like we do in America, and they don't have the high fructose corn syrup or too much of it either. So it's a better quality. They don't have the frankenwheat. They're pairing it more. They're delicious and tasting their food. So another thing of how to eat sugar well is to taste it. Actually enjoy it when you eat it. It's no fun when you're eating with guilt. You're not going to have the same pleasure as when you just enjoy it and let yourself enjoy it, especially if you're not feeling guilty and eating it every day, eating the wrong type, eating too much. If we can get that guilt out, we'll actually experience some more benefits and having it be a very pleasurable experience. Now, something I love but do not eat is apple pie, for example. But once a year, maybe around the holidays, it's actually probably once every 3 or 4 years, honestly. But let's say I have a piece of apple pie and I'm not depriving myself. I just enjoy a healthier life. I enjoy my sobriety. I enjoy my mind, right? So anyway, if I have that, I'll make sure I sit down, take time. It's not a rush in the car trying to stuff it in. It's really sitting down, relaxing, and enjoying that piece of chocolate or whatever it is that brings you joy. Try your best to delight and enjoy it without excess guilt. And guess how we have excess guilt? Reduce it. Is we eat well most of the time. Another thing to do, and I forgot to write this on there, is actually consider your green vegetables. So green vegetables have thiocaloids in them. Those thiocaloids, what they do, and Chef AJ talks about this often and many other health leaders, is that chlorophyll color and the phytonutrients within the plant foods, and especially green vegetables, will actually ward off cravings and they will reduce overeating by something like 90% of the time. So if you can get your good foods in, your nutrients in, have your dessert, eat your big, huge salad, or get your kale and get your spinach and all of the collard greens and any other green vegetables you can take, have your smoothie. If you can get your good foods in early in the day, you won't even crave or want the dessert. And if you do this more frequently and treat your body, treat this green foods like a medicine, I always recommend, 1 or 2 bananas and 4 cups of spinach and getting in all that in, you're not going to crave it. And it's going to heal your body like a medicine. Food is a healer. It was said, Hippocrates said, that let medicine be the food and food be your medicine. So here's some other ideas. Take it out of your home. Now, if you have sugar in the house, you're going to want to binge on it. So the way to eat it is actually, again, on occasion or in very planned, structured way. And if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. This is from Chef AJ. I love this quote because it's so true. Your environment does matter. We'll have time for Q&A, so think of your questions coming up real soon. But take it out of your home. Okay, so don't have it in the house. Years ago, I said I'm not having it in the house, and I used unsweetened versions. So I learned how to adapt my taste buds to have tea without sugar, to have and less honey. I would do a jar of honey, and then I had to stop that habit too. What else? and start, going with more quality, but just basically protecting your house, like getting the junks out of your house. And some people will say, oh, my kids, they need it, so I need it in the house. And that's just an excuse. You end up eating it yourself, right? When your kids have it, you end up eating it too. So keeping it out of your house to your best your ability, or out of your sight, even in a safe. I've heard from some stories where they put their food, like they have a separate refrigerator and a separate kind of like a storage for those types of standard American junk food fare, so that they're not tempted, and it's out of sight, out of mind. Now listen to this. This is a cool story. There are two stories. One is about marshmallows. There was a study done with kids, and the kids were told, hey, if you can not eat the marshmallow in front of you, okay? And it was like they timed them for a long time, and see if the kid would eat the marshmallow or not. If they ate the marshmallow, they wouldn't get a second marshmallow. If they didn't eat it, they would get double the marshmallow, right? Two marshmallows. Now, what happened? So the way to fight sugar cravings is to not look at it. The kid who won this particular study purposely did not look at the marshmallow. Now we're looking at tons of commercials every single day, and we're seeing this sexy, I always call it the sexy cheese oozing or the chocolate melting on the cake or something. And we're wondering, like, this true food porn that's explicitly appealing to our taste buds. And we're wondering, well, why do I want this meal? I mean, it's not rocket science. Marketing works. That's why people do it. And profitability works when we're trying to get that particular flavor of a food so that you enjoy it. It's highly palatable. It bypasses your common sense. It bypasses the fact that you just got a notice from your doctor. It bypasses the reality that you're on prescriptions. It does not rationalize sugar or any of these substances that we'll talk about and have talked about will get in the brain. So it's not your fault whatsoever. It's a brain physical chemistry issue. The only thing we can do is some of these techniques that I'm sharing. So one thing you can do is not look at it, get it out your house, get it in a particular area. If you have children that are, or just feeding your people, your home demands it and you can't help it. Okay. To get it, you can't control your environment fully. You just want to get it out of sight. Brush after eating is important. Oh, the other story too I wanted to share with you is about the healthy food. When the healthy food's in front of you. So for example, there was kids in the lunch line, and if the healthy bowl of fruit was in sight before the junk food, like the fries and the pizza and all that, they would choose the healthy food. So when you look at food psychology, sight matters because we start eating in the brain before we even see the food. We think of images, then we see the food, and then we want it. Therefore, marketing is very successful. Okay. And fast food companies are around for hundreds of years because of these factors, these facts. So another thing you can do, again, besides taking it out of your environment and everything else we discussed, is brush after eating. Even dried fruits, so like dates are a great alternative, and they're really, really sweet, but they are loaded with fiber and potassium. And then when you have any kind of sugar, you always want to brush your teeth because you can still develop cavities from it. But if you're eating a lot of green vegetables, you can ward off those dental issues as well. So just make sure you brush after eating it so you don't keep craving it and creating that in your body. Quit dessert. Now, I know this is like, woo, when we go out to eat, we're actually conditioned to eat dessert, right? And people go out to eat really for the dessert. I mean, they even go to weddings. They don't care about the wedding. They want the dessert. They want the wedding cake. They go to birthday for great, celebrate, happy. I want the birthday cake. We're conditioned to do those things, right? So, so when you go out to eat, and it's a training, it's actually training yourself to choose maybe an appetizer, maybe not, but really filling up on the right meal. And when we have a meal that's really high in refined carbohydrates, we're eating a lot of bread as the appetizer, you're actually going to want more food. Okay. Any white substance of any kind, whether it's pasta, whether that's bread, whether that's white rice, you're going to want more food than you need to eat. Okay. So keeping that in mind, like how much does your body need, learning how to be hungry, not over hungry, and just really conditioning yourself to enjoy and savor your meal so you don't even want dessert and tap into that hunger. So you're not choosing dessert because again, we end on dessert and then we have high blood sugar and then we're going to have all kinds of health issues. It's inevitable because of this way of eating for anybody, skinny or not so skinny. Okay. So as always, also pray. And here's what I'm going to share with you, which is really motivating. I prayed a lot about sugar and I was confused for a while on, do I let it go? Do I moderate? What do I do? And I learned how to eat it. I learned that I need to exercise. I learned that I need to have green vegetables. I learned that I need to have protein or something before, after eating sugar, because it seemed to balance me out. But then I also learned how the insulin spikes even with meat. Your insulin actually goes up higher with meat than it does with certain sugars and substances there than white potatoes. So you need to consider your body, what you need, and learn how to eat sugar well if you're going to eat it, and then moderate it, right? If you need to eat refined sugar, what's the right balance that doesn't make you go overboard? And that's a learning about yourself and your bio individual health, which is we all have. So consider those things. Another thing you can try is, I'm sorry if my light is a little weird. This isn't the best setup. I'm just looking at the camera now. Okay. Is another thing to do is just pray. So when I started praying, like, God, heal me from this addiction, or what this is it addiction? It can be really confusing because again, everybody's doing it. And what God did was he showed me a dream. So he gave me a dream of saying, this is addiction. And yes, let it go. Now I have had several of those dreams before I was finally like totally free forever. But if you notice yourself with or without the substance that you struggle with, especially refined sugar, it's time to really get serious and committed to an alternative sweet flavor of that works for you and doesn't cause the same havoc as the other ones. I mentioned maple syrup. I mentioned agave. There's also stevia. There's also many others, monk fruit. It's just a matter of tasting and checking the results. Okay. What questions do you have about how to eat sugar without weight gain or health effects? Okay. Just go ahead and put them in the chat room. Okay. Let's see what you have. So Jill says, I make some for my husband and me, the rest gets given away. So making sure you're giving it away. Yeah. When I worked with a team of guys in an office, which nobody's really in right now, it was so easy. I could take the whole cake and bring it to work. It's gone in 5 minutes. But when it's just you, it's really problematic, right? You have to literally throw it out. And I've made stuff and thrown out the rest that I didn't need because it will be problematic for me. So when I need some bubbles, I use sparkling water with a splash of juice. Yeah, so that's a great way to do it. Okay. Asian pear, yum, crunchy and sweet. So like an Asian pear with maple syrup. Hi, Jen. So good to see you on here. Ray uses stevia, so she enjoys that. Yeah, the pure maple syrup is dark. It used to be called grade B, but it's now just dark colored. And raw agave is really great too. I love even raw honey. Honey is great, but honey is going to spike blood sugar more than the other two I mentioned. And making sure you measure it out, like having limits. So for example, 3 tablespoons is a lot of caloric intake, 2 tablespoons, 1 tablespoon, just having some kind of way for you to have a max. Zuri says it's cutting out for me. Yeah, because it's problematic. So any food that you're having struggle with is problematic. Guess what? When you don't eat it, you just don't eat it. And it has to be your choice. It can't be something like, I can eat it. It's got to be saying to yourself, I don't eat it. I don't eat chocolate. Right. So if you're, I said in the book, if you're a chocoholic, and you don't want to be a chocoholic anymore and you see the effects. Now, the nature of addiction is both a yes and no. Yes, I want it. No, I don't. It has to have that conflict in order for it to be considered addiction. If I drink every day and I have no conscience about it, I don't have to, I'm not an alcoholic technically. Okay. So addiction is subjective to the party, and you have to have that sense of just one more time, just one more time. And then you notice it's 20 times later, then that's your brain being addicted to it. And therefore it's time to cut it out. Now, when you're addicted to something, guess how you get unaddicted? You don't eat it anymore. It's it's zero is the answer, not moderation. Once it's in your system, you're just gonna want more and more. So the nature of addiction is you have to crave, binge, and withdraw. So a lot of us avoid this withdrawal process. We don't want the headache. We don't want the negative moods. We don't want the cold-like symptoms. These are all normal for withdrawal. So we really just fear withdrawal. And then we don't have the emotional stamina for dealing with things in another pattern or way, or we need to create some kind of other experience to get that same thing we're trying to get from that, the wine or the candy bar or whatever. So we're trying to get something from that experience. We just have to pinpoint what it is. Is it affection? Is it being heard? Is it, communication? Is it connection? So trying to find the thing under the thing is one of the goals. The other thing is, again, you're no longer addicted to it if you no longer eat it, right? So with refined sugar, I just don't eat it. And I've made it my choice because I've had year after year, countless days, I've seen how it's stolen from my life. I've seen how it has made me procrastinate. I've seen the issues it's caused very clearly. So at this point, after so much time, after so much struggle, it was quite helpful for me to get permission and give myself permission not to eat like everybody else, and be okay with that, right? Like, no, I just don't eat cake. Okay. So if we're having a celebration, a lot of times I don't even need anything, but I may eat an alternative version or a make my own or whatever. Or a lot of times I don't need it anymore because when you don't have these things in your system, you actually don't crave them, like I said earlier. So to get unaddicted, you just don't eat those things. It's not rocket science. I know, but it's hard to do because of the culture. And that's why I'm here to support you in your journey. So I love your attitudes and just that idea of cutting it out. And relapse is normal, meaning going back and forth a little bit is normal. It took me years to be completely gluten-free. And the way I got gluten-free, and even gluten-free flour is not always healthy for my brain, but for my addictive brain. So, but even being gluten-free, what I found interesting about that is it took me, I was ebbing and flowing. I was like 50%, 60%, it took me time to really get 100%. Same with sugar. Thankfully, I always tell people I was delivered from fast food, which is loaded and pumped with sugar and all kinds of things, way back when. And it was like a one and done. I was like delivered from McDonald's the rest of my life and Burger King. It was just a miracle because I ate it 3 times a day. But once you stop these addictive foods like bread, white bread, you just don't crave it anymore. So it's pretty powerful, and it does take time, and giving yourself the grace, space, and paying attention to how it affects you, what the effects are, the negative effects, because in our brain, we actually have true memory lapse and amnesia when it comes to the stuff we don't want to do, but we do for the pleasure we seek and to get those needs met from the pleasures that we seek and the substances in our system. So I hope that's helpful. Let me know. Okay, I use agave on my pancakes and fruit. Yes, you can do a ton with alternatives. Jill, so proud of you. Yes. And even agave can get out of control, right? Some days. So just having a measuring certain things need to be measured. And that's just an acceptance. It's like, I don't want to measure it. No one does. But we need to keep boundaries around our food, around our health, around what we're doing with certain things. Not everything. Hey, you can have as many collard greens as you want to eat. Okay. But when it comes to certain substances that we've abused in the past or have misused, we need to make sure we are diligent on measuring them. Okay. All right. Any other thoughts you have? Jen says addictive food satisfies boredom. Yes, that's so true. What's the best way to replace this? Energizing your life, Jen. Think about things you want to do, people you want to meet. How can you better connect? Life can be quite boredom. So is there a project you can work on? Is there a new kind of entertainment that you can check out or enjoy? And yes, it absolutely, we eat a lot when we're bored. And even if you replace, if you still want to eat when you're bored, that's fine. Can you replace it? Like I said, you can eat a ton of fruit and actually lose weight and have more hydration depending on the types of fruit. Like high water content fruits are pretty powerful for weight loss. In fact, some researchers said it's because of a lack of fruit that we have our obesity epidemic. Isn't that fascinating? Because we're thinking, oh, it's too much sugar, but we're so twisted in that, well, isn't this packaged product more sugar? Yeah, it actually is. But we eat the packaged product and then shun the actual real types of sugar. It makes no sense. It's a part of our brain issue. All right, any thoughts that you want to share? Okay. Would love some feedback, definitely. Any other ideas for Jen who feels she eats when she's bored? Feel free to put them in there in the chat room. Quick country pizza. Let me give you a recipe. This is a fun one. It's really easy. You may have made this before. If you have, let me know. Basically, quick crunchy pizza is you need a couple of them because you're not going to get the calorie needs you may have, like if you had this for lunch or dinner. And remember to always pair with some kind of green vegetable or salad of some kind. Okay, just get those greens in because those greens ward against cancer. They ward against disease. They clean out your blood. They give you fiber. They are what God said to eat in Genesis 1:29 and 30. We want to be eating our green vegetables no matter what we eat. So 2 to 3 brown rice cakes. The key is to look for unsalted. I'll do another seminar on salt because it's a real big deal and it's a real problem in all processed foods and soups and things like that. So look for unsalted, and you can find that at Sprouts or you can find lightly salted at the regular grocery store, but look for unsalted brown rice cakes so you get a little bit more benefit. Okay. Low fat, sugar, and sodium spaghetti sauce. Now you can find that when you find an organic, no sugar, it'll say on the label, or it'll say no fat or low fat or something like that. You want that because you don't want those added, the unnecessary additions to the sauce. And then you need some of that Daiya cheese or alternative. Now you can do other ones. Daiya seems to melt well. You may have other alternative plant-based cheeses. And you may do regular cheese if you don't have a problem with it, if it's not a problematic for you, even though it is an allergen for pretty much everybody. So if you take any allergy medicine, if you have asthma, if you have weird coughing situations, if you have runny nose situations, all that, if that may mean too much dairy is in your diet and you may need to change it. So, but you can use the Daiya cheese. You have mozzarella or cheddar, whatever your preference is. You can do a mix of both. You want to just put a little on there, and I'll put a picture in the Facebook group, but that's it. You basically take the brown rice, pour a little sauce on there, and put some cheese on there, put it in the oven. Now you have to watch it if you broil it, but you can broil it for just a few minutes. Just watch it closely until that cheese melts. And voila, you have a delicious meal. And you can put on there red pepper flakes. You can put on there oregano. You can put Italian spices. I like onion powder. Even sometimes I'll put little onions on there, like Jersey style. So you can create some nice ideas. You can put basil on there, have yourself a margarita, quick crunchy pizza. But these are quick little snacks. Now, if you have a craving for pizza, this is a wonderful alternative than the doughy, big, problematic food that is the second addictive, the most addictive food in the world. Any guesses? Any guesses to the most addictive food in the world? Yeah, drink lots of water, Jill says. That's so true, Jen. The water is also awesome and helpful. Ray says fruit bloat, switching to veggies. Okay, yes, the fruit bloat. I wonder if, again, types of fruit does matter for your body. So consider more berries and consider not eating them all day, like having focused times. And you may have some blood sugar stuff happening. So you want to just test that out. And also pairing. So when you eat, certain foods need to be combined better so they don't create excess bloat. Okay, so I'm not sure what's happening there with you. Okay, so as far as your crunchy pizza, try this out. See how you like that. Last month we did the Southwest pizza salad. Did anybody try it? And then if anybody wants to, please put in your goals. What kinds of things, based on what we talked about, what's your number one goal between now and May 3rd? And May 3rd is our next call, by the way. So thanks for joining. But May 3rd is our next call. So what's your goal? I'm going to head over to the Facebook group, and awesome to see you, Gail. Wonderful. Glad you're here, Dr. Michael. Audrey, your first visit. Wanda, great to see you again. Always so excited to be with you. And thank you so much for getting on. I do this literally for you. So it's just put it in your calendar. We'll talk about something. The goal is just to get motivated, right? And keep learning. Let me go over there. What's your goal? Put it in the chat room. I'm going to go ahead over to the Facebook group. I have all kinds of studies going on here. So Facebook. Hope there's nothing shocking on here today. Okay, let's see. All right, so we're going to go to this Holland Free Active group. I'm going to put this link inside the chat room. And I'm going to create a post. And you can post it here. And again, I would love you to support each other. I'm going to fix this so that we could see each other's video. I just haven't been able to test it out quite yet. But put your goals in the group and let me know what you're doing here, okay? Because why not? You know, doesn't hurt. So number one, actual food, addictive food, and I didn't have any guesses, is chocolate. It's also the number one sold food in the world. So chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. It's super delicious, as we all know. And that is the number one addictive food. Any questions before we wrap up tonight, folks? Dr. Michael says, goal to have healthy alternatives to sugary foods available. Well, thank you, sweetheart. He's actually my sweetheart. Thanks for joining. All right. Jill says, thanks for doing. Oh, thank you, Jill. Appreciate the appreciation and appreciate you. That's for shizzle. For shizzle. All right. I don't see any posts yet, but definitely post your April goals in there, or you can share now. And then I'm going to send out a link as well. So whatever your goals are, feel free to post them in there. Gail, I'm so glad you joined. And that's all. We're praying for Jill's surgery. Thank you. Wanda says, thank you. I always get so much from these. Awesome. So here's the thing. We're going to have a course May 1st. You'll get information on that, defeating the giants of food addiction. So you can go a little deeper on what that looks like and how to defeat it. And just keep coming back. May 3rd is the next one. Same time. I hope this time works. I put it a little later at 6 o'clock. And I don't know if I should do 6:30 or 7. Let me know. All right. First Mondays this month, just less sugar, Ray. That's awesome. Read labels. That's simple. If you see added sugar, try to move away from it. And again, even structuring your food timing is great too. Not eating it at night. Okay. All right, folks. Loved being with you. Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for health motivation. Thank you for wisdom in their choices. Thank you for transformation, change, and continuing to find and help lead them to the resources that work best for them. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Bye, everybody.